following is a candidate forum conducted by the Cold Spring Area Chamber of Commerce on Thursday, October 12th. Due to technical difficulties, viewers will witness some audio interference in parts of this program. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause for either the candidates or for you, the listening audience.
In what form, from what source, do you believe education funding can best meet the needs of schools in central Minnesota?
Well, education should be the most important aspect of state government. There's only two things in our Constitution that we're responsible for as a state. One is a uniform education system, the other is a transportation and infrastructure. The problem with the education funding system is I think we've been losing that aspect of uniformity. When we see school districts such as Eden Prairie that have artificial turf and a dome over their football field, and we're struggling in central Minnesota to maintain class sizes that are in the 30s in our grade school systems, we're picking winners and losers. There's no silver bullet to solving the education funding problem. The 70% mandate that goes into the classrooms, it sounds good, and oftentimes what sounds good or is what is good politics creates bad policy. When we talk about 70% of education funding in the classroom, does that include our media centers? Does that include our social workers? Does that include the counselors? Does that include the person serving lunch to our children? And we've got to take all that into account when we make these policies. We should not be passing policies for the end run of politics. With education funding, what we need to ensure is a fairness and equity throughout our state. When our property taxes are going up by about an average of 14% in central Minnesota cities and towns, and we see suburban Ramsey and Hennepin County seeing increases in the single digits, about 6%. We're picking winners and losers. One of the things that we need to do as a state is readjust our school equity funding. We have 4 tiers within the system, and we need to make sure that those caps are representative of the areas that our schools are in. We need to make sure that it takes into account increasing property values, increasing stresses upon our property tax system, and make sure that our schools are funded at the most basic level. We don't need the excesses in our schools, but we need to make sure our schools are funded equally. We can't have 30 plus children in elementary grade schools. When Holdingford has 40 kids in the 8th grade class for geometry, how do we expect our teachers to give that one-on-one attention? And we need to start focusing on the policy issues. If we simply play politics with education funding for the end game of making sure that we can get a particular party in majority or elected, we are cheating the education system. So we need to work on equity, fairness, and make sure that we have our constitutional responsibility of providing a uniform education system.
Right now we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in education, and we're investing that, which I think is a great investment, probably the best investment we can make. Yet not many people in this room, nor even some on the panel here, can tell me how that funding formula works or explain that funding formula. Right now we're creating large disparities in funding throughout the state. We need to close those gaps. We need to make it more understandable to the average person. There's no reasons why schools in the metro area are receiving more and more money than schools in our rural areas. We need to change that. The state also needs to be prepared to address rising needs, growing needs, increased funding. We have the ability to increase funding. With increased funding, however, comes equitable funding, fair funding, making sure our students in rural Minnesota are getting their fair funding like our metro counterparts. It also comes with increased funding accountability. With our major investments, we need to see major returns. We need to grow upon our good numbers. Eden Valley, Watkins, Painesville, Kimball, Albany, McCrory, great test scores with minimal funding. Now when we rework our formula and we get some fairness and some more equitable funding out here to our rural communities, can you imagine the test results we get back? When you talk education, you need to ask 2 things of the state. Are we getting our fair and equitable funding? And are we getting accessible and understandable test results that we can use to provide our kids with the best education? And I don't think we're getting that right now.